let's start off with maybe some older stuff that we've been sitting on forever. Let's see, view, details, and Bowser Kids. So we got a Bowser Jr. blockout here that I think will be pretty close. I think we can use this as is. What else we got in this folder? We have bullet box. Give it a second. Let's see if I can't get these all into one file. There we go. We have a flower, and we have a ghost. Oh wow, we have a bunch of stuff. I didn't realize I had this much stuff. Question box. So some of the stuff has light booleans on it, so we'll have to fix those. And also this doesn't look quite right. So when we originally made this forever ago, we had underneath geometry, dynamic subdiviv. We still have it on bevel. I'm going to put that on chamfer to kind of round those out. I can also add more Q grids, which will give me more spans, and I can drop that coverage down. I can also go in here and just add another smooth subdiv just to make that nice and smooth. So now this would be the final result. However, I also want to consider, do I want to use booleans for this, or do I want to like just cut that geometry in? So, let's start. I guess I'll go through. Actually, let me go through here. Let's see. Make sure I'm up here. Got it. Cool. Okay. So let's go through all of these things. I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then we'll put them all into one scene, because right now they're all at different orientations, different sizes, all that stuff. So let's make this a little bit more usable. Starting with this one. So let's see. I'm going to go here to subtool. This is my Boolean mesh here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this off, and let's look at this geometry and see if I can't salvage something worthwhile. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to hit Shift D, and that's going to put it into this mode. And I could go through, since these are all different polygroups, I can go through here and I can get those bevels in there by going down here to geometry, edge loop, and there's a, crease, and there's a bevel width. If I do the bevel width now, Shift D, it's not going to do anything because there's nothing creased. However, if I hold down Control and go through here, and I can actually put in bevels in between those. So I did Shift D to get rid of my smooth subdiv. That's the result I can get. So now if I go through here and I do like an insert, multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, this could work. However, I am going to run into some problems when I have to go do it on every single edge. So in that case, what I might consider doing instead is starting with, I guess, a Z-sphere and using extend to give me a little bit of a better result. Or instead of doing that, since I've already got that result, I can say, okay, let's go back here to our original thing here. I already like this result here. It's just not real geometry. So let's go see what that would look like as real geometry. And in fact, I might go through here first and say insert single edge loop. Hold on, I'll get rid of that first. Go to geometry, dynamic apply, and then this is my real geometry. And then I can turn off, you know what, I'll actually go down here before my smooth subdiv. So this is my real geometry. However, if I wanted to put a big hole in here or cut something in, it wouldn't really work that great. So at that point, you know, if I'm having to struggle this much, like I said before, I could actually start with a cylinder and pull that profile back and use the extender. And what I mean by that is, let's go through here. And the sphere if I want to go in 3 directions. But for example, cylinder here, edit, make polymesh 3D, hit W, go in here, use deformation extender, and I can pull this out and pull this out. Now I've got that profile on the edges, and then I could use this to punch a hole in, or I could go in here to like the sphere and do the exact same thing. Make polymesh 3D, I mean dial in the resolution of the sphere however you'd like. In fact, you can actually do that in here. Just grab a polysphere, although in this case, this might not work that great. So we'll go in here to extender, and we'll go here and here, and now we'll just do it in 3 axes. And now you can see we've got that corner profile. However, it's still a lot of geometry, and if I ever want to go in here and say like BI or go in here and say split point, it's gonna, you know, eventually run into the problem. So all things considered, probably not worth the headache. Booleans will work just fine, and I can probably just get just fine geometry from it if I wanted to. So I'm going to go back here to where I just had dynamic, and we've got our Boolean here. So we go to solo mode, and we say turn on my Boolean. There's our result, and then I can go down here, and this actually has, you know, a little inset bevel and all that stuff. So remeshing might not do a great job, but we can try if you want. So we can go through here. We can say Boolean dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. This will give us our U mesh, and this is probably fine. Like, it's not that heavy. I could use this for rendering just fine. Not a big deal. Not super optimized or great for much else maybe, but you know, that's the price you pay for Boolean sometimes. Oops, let me get caught up here. Hey, I just got into YouTube videos. Want to make sure your YouTube content. Cool, awesome. Glad the videos are helping out. I'm doing good. I don't speak that language. Sorry. Looks interesting though. Right on. Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. All that stuff heading into 2021 with real interesting stuff going on. But you know, what are you gonna do? So I think we're okay with this box. This part of the box here, so we've got this is like our working file here. And in fact, you know, this has the old just like start group methodology. What we could also do is you can hit, I sometimes like this, oops, wrong button here. Let's just grab a new folder, and we're gonna call this our working box, and we're gonna drop this Boolean in here. So now that I have this in a folder, I don't need to use the start group. I can just go in here. I can say Boolean with dynamic subdivision. That'll go ahead and make the U mesh, drop it down below, hide my folder for me. So that way I don't have to go in here and be like, oh, let me go and append that U mesh result to my subtools. I can just do that with the folder. So that's a good way just to have like a working file and then have your U meshes right here. This one I don't need the start group as well. So there we go. We can have this as a different material. We can have this as a different material ID. I haven't actually brought up my reference for this, but I assume that's about what it looks like, give or take. So we'll call that a win, and I think we'll just roll with that for now. Now to get all of this into another file, what I'm going to do is, if I want to, I can go in here, I can like save as and save this as a working file. So I have these to always go back to. I'm not overly concerned about that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to this folder here, and we're going to say delete all, and that'll delete the folder and everything in it. And then these two I can migrate over later. Another thing I'm going to do, let's just do a quick save real quick. You can hit 9 on your keyboard or hit the quick save button, which you probably can't see, but it's just above. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can barely speak English. That's about where my linguistic challenges stop. Oh, looks like there's an error on Facebook. Well, let's see. Yeah, well, they can get it later, I suppose. So we'll go ahead and close that out. I'm doing good. Yes, Happy New Year. And what's the next holiday coming up? Flag Day. I think we've got quite a while before anything comes up. I can justify a day off work. Okay, so we'll save that one to last. Let's go through here. So we've got this one here, and what I'm looking for, just any inconsistencies or anything I need to fix. In here, I might pull these teeth up just a little bit so they're a little more snug against his mouth. And this might be a good candidate for like a 3D print kind of go through here and make sure everything's a-okay. These teeth don't really curve that much. I'm going to go in here to my deformer, and I'm going to say bend arc, and I'm just going to pull this back just a little bit and see if I can't get these teeth to kind of conform to that front profile. And in fact, let's see if I do have subdivision levels on this. Yeah, I do. So I can do Shift D, and this is the remesh. Boy, that's heavy. Let's see if we can't fix that. Okay, so I have X symmetry turned on. I do have a polygroup pretty much exactly where I want it. So I'm going to say keep group, smooth groups down to 0, half adaptive size down a bit, and then just hit Z remesh and see if I can't get a slightly better result. I'm just going to keep hitting Z remesh half. This will give me a little bit more control, and I can always go through here and, like, if something's a little bit wonky, go through here and fix this. In fact, I may just go through here and say bridge 2 points and then collapse that edge there. Let's pull this down here and see. Because if Z remesh ever needs help, you can go through and you can help it. I'm not real super pleased about that, but let's see if we can't just have Z remesh. There we go, that'll work. So much lighter mesh, we still get the same result. I can still go through here and do, like, under your crease menu, you'll have a crease polygroup. And then I go ahead and hit dynamic, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2 maybe. Nice fall off here, we'll do another smooth. There we go. So again, a lot easier to move around. I could control my subdivisions much better. If I need to go through here and do any drastic changes, I can hit Shift D. I got a light, nice low poly mesh. I can go through here and I can, like, you know, pull the mouth back or change its expression however I'd like. As well as, yeah, those teeth aren't really doing it for me, but I think that'll be okay. Another thing you can do is, this is something we mentioned earlier, so now we have a crease along here and a polygroup. So the two ways you can do that, or mess with that, you can go in here, back to your crease menu. If you don't hold down control, you can just do that bevel width, and it'll add a bevel right along that polygroup, which might be nice. Or again, holding down control, it'll go ahead and throw a nice bevel in there. Of course, that's going to change your overall volume. So in this case, let's see if we can't just, like, throw in a bevel right along there, maybe not that heavy. I'll just go through here and I'll just adjust these points just a little bit. There we go. That just kind of softens that transition a bit. Yeah, and even this one I could even say, you know, keep my crease PGs, turn on dynamic, and that'll give me just a nice ring around that I can also adjust later if I need to. Cool. I think that's close. Marvelous Designer is best. No? Sounds like Conan the Barbarian. Yes. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you. Use Marvelous Designer and hear the lamentations of all the people who like making cloth and CG. Yeah, exactly. It's hard for me to ever say you have to use this or this is the best. Usually when you get into that kind of language, you get into hobbyist territory. Marvelous Designer is fine. So is any number of options. Same thing when you get into retopology or UVs or any other religious argument you want to have with CG. Sure. They're all amazing or they're all the worst, and let me tell you why. And they're all trash, or they're actually the only thing you can use. As soon as you start getting into that kind of territory, really quickly devolves into, you know, like I said, hobbyist language. Let's see, can I fix this? Let's see if I can go through here. Let's go ahead and say bridge 2 points. It also depends a lot on, and you'll see this as I'm working. I'm a really good example. Your methodology is sometimes more important than the tool. I would say, you know, having a good tool is important for sure, but also, like, there's some fundamentals that if you don't have, it doesn't matter what program you're using, you know, you're not going to get a great result. And a lot of times those people will go on and be like, this is the crap you're going to get out of this program. And then you'll realize, oh, you know, consider the source. Or is that person worthwhile using that program or using that methodology, or they just don't know what they're doing? which often is the case. It's not so much that it's like, oh, this program yields bad results. It's that that person yields bad results because they don't have enough practice under them. So I alleviated the stress around that corner. So hopefully when I hit D and smooth that, kind of, like I said, it'll reduce a little bit of that. We can actually throw a bevel along that profile as well. I'm trying to avoid having to go through and like punch in a bunch of control loops here because it's on a curved surface, if I can help it. Let's see, we have X symmetry turned on. Now I'll go ahead and fix the side too. So really, again, it's just going through here. We'll say bridge 2 points here to here. And then I want to, so I've got this one and I want this to continue up over this side. So I'm just going to go through here and do a quick split edge. Now you can do, what was it? Slice mesh now. So we can go through here, we can go point to edge here if it'll let me. Oh boy, let me use my mouse. So here, oh wait, no. So we got to go back here. We're going to put, actually, do I have a brush for this? Topology, yeah, so Z modeler slice. So this has it already set up. So all my points are set to slice, all my faces are set to, or my polygroup is set to fill. You can set polygroup to slice, but I find it more worthwhile going polygroup fill. And then edge is also set up to slice. And that's kind of the cool thing about Z modeler that I like, is that you can go through, let's start over. Let's see, spacebar here. I'm going to go continue this line up and over this way, and then we'll go ahead and bridge these two here. And we'll do a little bit of cleanup work, and that's again just going through here and saying hover over an edge, and then we can actually just do a collapse, I think, on this one. So we'll go ahead and pull this over this direction, and then we'll grab a delete edge here. And so again, we want, oh, I just messed up what I was doing there. Say, well, to delete this edge here, let's do a quick mirror and weld, there we go. So we'll delete this one, delete this one, delete that one, delete this one. There we go. And then, you know what, let's do an uncrease all, and then we'll just do another crease with a crease tolerance, so I'll get my corners again. And then again, we can go through here and we can set this to slide, and we can slide right across the surface there. And hopefully, and like I said, instead of putting in control groups, maybe pulling these a little closer to this inside area might help a little. And if you want to see the making of all of this stuff, I want to say, let me grab this real quick. YouTube playlists here. ArtStation isn't going to have anything. This is probably where I would go if I wanted to get like, hey, the latest ZBrush version, all that good stuff. Any other odds and ends that are in there. But on my YouTube channel, I think that's where all my live stream stuff is. So should be a big blue genie. View full playlist here, and then this is the older episodes, and I want to say they're buried in here somewhere, like making all these original props. So I really honestly don't remember how I went about this. Might be time to revisit. Let's also do a crease PG again, crease our polygroups there, and let's back this off. Let's say crease level of 2, smooth set to 4, to get a bit of a little softer transition between here. Maybe crease level 1, 2. Seems to be okay. Again, that's all dynamic, so I can do D and Shift D to dial that in as needed. We have our diamonds on here, so anything hard surface like this with corners on it, you know what? Let's go ahead and pop these out into their own thing. Say split hidden, and they have backs on them. Good. When I did my mirror and weld, looks like I got a little bit of a thing over here. I can go through here and collapse this stuff. Or I can just kind of paint across here and then isolate this and say delete hidden. I'm just going to do a quick, yeah, we got some nasty geometry in here. Delete. I'm going to do a quick close holes. Say double let's see here. Let's weld. And then do a quick mirror and weld across the X. You know what we're going to do? So this is basically symmetrical in two not really, because it's tilted. All right, here's what we can do. Maybe a little bit easier way to go clean this up. I'm going to grab these and then invert that and say delete hidden. And then I'm going to say just alt mark these ones, delete poly. Yeah, boy, there's some nasty stuff going on those. I don't know exactly why. I'll do another quick mirror and weld across the x-axis. And now if I do a close holes, great. Do another mirror and weld, good enough. And now I'll go ahead and cap those. I'm going to hit Control W. Make it all one polygroup. Now again, what I was saying with the hard surface, instead of going through here and adding control loops and stuff, hopefully adding dynamic with a Q grid will be enough. We'll take this smooth sub div down to 1. So that'll hopefully, and these aren't great, are they? Let's do chamfer. This works better on rectangular geometry. I'm wondering if I can, I don't think simplifying that's going to help that much. Well, another thing too is that when I go to render this, I can actually just tell it to go ahead and give me rounded edges on here. Let's also see if we can do this. Let's do a quick group by normals, drop that way down. So every single one of these faces, or excluding these back ones, gets a polygroup. And then again, we can go right down here, hold down Control, and just drop in a little bit of a bevel width here. I guess we'll do another close holes, and then we'll say delete edge here, and I'll hit Control W. I'm just trying to kind of back off those just a bit. All right, so now let's hit D for dynamic. That result's still pretty crappy, but in this case, maybe what we can do now is we can go over here to Q grid off, and then go ahead and say crease PG to crease our polygroup, and crease here, and then smooth subdiv of, stay back here, let's say crease all, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 4, there we go. Well, it's a little bit acceptably smooth and faceted. Now, instead of doing all that again, what I'm going to do is hit W. Let's go ahead and say, I want this to go across this axis back here. So I need to follow this line here. Actually, it might be a little bit easier if I hit Y, and then I can literally just snap my transpose line in that direction. So now I can hit Y again, and then I can hold down Control and move these up. And then I can scale these down. So I'm going to go to the unmatched mesh center, and we'll scale these down a bit here. And we'll actually, what might have been even easier is to use instances for these diamonds. Would be nanomesh planes. This turned out to be a bigger pain in my butt than I thought it was going to. Luckily, since it's pretty easy geometry, I think we can just eyeball it. Again, I'm not overly concerned. Now what I am concerned about is we didn't have X symmetry turned on, so I'm going to do a quick mirror and weld to make it go across that axis, and then turn X symmetry on, and then we can just move that into place. So I'm going to Alt tap these old ones here to select them, and we'll go ahead and say delete, and then I can just do a quick clean up here. Fine, fine, and fine. Let's go ahead and move this one forward just a bit. Control Alt here, and then we'll move them all. Actually, let's pop these top ones off into their own. Split hidden. Unmatched mesh center. There we go. And again, like I said before, there may be a more elegant method to go about that, and it wouldn't be ZBrush's fault that I'm not doing a more elegant method. It would be my fault because of poor planning, and I might not be the best person to go about doing this type of work. So don't confuse my inability with ZBrush's or any program's inability. These are my shortcomings. Cool. All right, let me get caught up. Cool. Thanks for joining, McBobbles. Regular time for me to be on. Yeah, first Thursday of every month. I think I skipped last month. I'm pretty flaky when it comes to consistency, but I try. Here. I think I'm getting everything. Okay, good. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, Slice was, oh yeah, that's a good point. So like I mentioned before on, you know, the what's new, the 2021 what's new is actually getting pretty big. Here's the what's new 2021. There's 82 videos. The last 15 or so are the 2021.5 updates. And in here, somewhere is the Slice stuff. So you can check that out there. Cool. Hey, John Yu. Edge decals. Like doing like strip texture decals. Like, what do they call it? Stuff I don't do all that much. Face weighted normals type decal stuff. That that's probably gonna be something I'm not overly qualified to answer. Let me see auto groups here. Let's get rid of these. Say delete hidden. Hit W. Let's do Shift D to go out of that mode. Let's hit Control W. W X symmetry turned on. I'm going to Control drag off a couple copies. I'm going to scale them down a little bit, and we'll go and position these here. Kind of move them forward a bit, and we'll hit D. Invert that mask by control clicking. We'll pull this out here. Yeah, there's something about these teeth. I just want them to kind of follow a bit more. If you do want to sharpen these up, I'm going to drop my Z intensity down, because again, we're dealing with very low res geometry here. In fact, so low res, it might be actually easier in some instances to go ahead and hit Control D to give us real geometry. Sometimes that helps, depending on the shape you're trying to get. Okay, so we got eyebrows, we got eyeballs. I think every one of these is going to be different material here, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it. This is a bit heavy. We don't need it to be that heavy. Let's go ahead and hit, let's go ahead and delete lower so I can just hit D for dynamic. I think that'll work fine. Now for this one, let's go ahead and let's go into solo mode here. So here's our point in history we can always go back to. We'll turn off live boolean. I'm again going to do a zero mesher. We're at 38,000. Let's not do half. Let's do target polygon count of 5, depth slice down to 0. And then we can drop down to half. And again, we're just going to go super lean. If you wanted to pull a divot in here, I suppose you could go through and do like a bevel here, and then you could mark the polygons that you would want to drop in. So I'm going to go ahead and just say here, and maybe have it peter out there, and we'll go ahead and do it like an inset polygroup all. We'll go ahead and just do a legacy real quick, and then a Q mesh polygroup all. And again, of course, you could sculpt this. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we're using dynamic subdivision, you know, just kind of popping that in there might be better than, you know, adding 80,000 polygons so I can go there and get a sculpted line. And then if I want to feather this, again, while it's smooth subdivided, let's go ahead and hit D, and then we can go through here and we'll just use smooth to kind of broaden those transitions out in the back here, and maybe soften that out. Again, we're just using super low res geometry, but we can still use our smooth subdiv to kind of eyeball this geometry first. Okay, that'll work. So nice lightweight model. Okay, Moving on. Let's go ahead and I think we just did a quick save, but we'll go ahead and do another one. Sorry if I miss. Which free render farm do you recommend for 3D models? I don't know. I don't think I've ever used a free render farm. I was wondering what is the difference between products. You sell them or give them for free. I get CMix info about it. Oh, my products. If I put them on Gumroad or anywhere else that has a file limit upload, so it's like I might go into, let's see here. So let's say we went on to Gumroad, and you see on my YouTube channel or my ArtStation page, for example, like we were just talking about it. Okay, what's new? ZBrush 2021, what's new? And I have 82 free videos here. Then you go on my Gumroad page, and you see ZBrush 2021, what's new? And it costs $10 whole. Well, that's when you got to click this little button here and go, why am I paying $10 for this? Usually if it's $1, it's an upload limit. I can't put videos on here, so I'll just throw them up here for $1. It's the exact same thing as YouTube, only you get to pay $1 to watch them on Gumroad or download the files and not have to go to YouTube, watch the ads or whatever. For the $10 stuff, usually you'll have stuff like this where it says bonus content. None of this stuff is on YouTube. And, you know, there's going to be Z tools in here. There's going to be extra videos. This one has 5 extra hours and videos and stuff like that. So all you got to do to find out is read the description. And that'll usually tell you what else is on there. Same thing for this. Like this one is the 2 live streams plus an extra 4 or 5 hours probably. Same thing with this. This is a live streams plus an extra 5 hours finishing it out. The no UV look dev here, if I click this open, you're going to see, hey, you know, this has a playlist on ArtStation. We can maybe actually do some of that today. So you click on here and it's like, well, there's 28 videos. Why in the hell would I pay for that? You don't have to. Honestly, usually when I do this, all the information you need is right here. I don't really, all the basics are there. If you want, I go a little bit deeper on, for example, this one where we do an extra 3 demos. We do so the what's on YouTube has the scarab and the truck, I believe. And then bonus. This is not what you're going to find on YouTube. This is where we use this model and also use multiple view. We have this model and then also this model and talk about different things in demo and Photoshop compositing. Stop playing. Goodness. And then also for this particular one, it comes with all these Z tools so you can follow along. You're not going to find those on YouTube. So depending on the product, that's what the difference is. But again, you don't have to get those. It's going good. Cool. All right, we got a ghost. Let's keep moving along. So we've got a flower, and this orientation is a little bit weird. If I turn on the floor, you're gonna see it's kind of laying down on the floor. So Z forward, Y up, depending on the program you're on, but ZBrush and Maya, that's how it works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on move multiple, and we're gonna go ahead and rotate this, hold down shift and maybe snap it 90 degrees, and we'll go ahead and put this world center. So at least that's oriented correctly. Let's go through here. Let's see what's going on with this geometry. So it has dynamic on. I'm gonna turn up smooth subdiv to 3. And then on the stalk over here, we'll turn that smooth subdiv up as well. All right, I think that one's good to go. Moving right along. This is bad boy. So we go in here to live boolean. Me cutting this shape in is probably going to be more trouble than it's worth. I could use ZRemesher and go through there. This one here, what is that guy? He is Bullet Bill. I'm gonna call it Bullet Bill House. Does he have, I'm trying to figure out if those corners, I wasn't gonna, oh yeah, he comes out of that thing. No, I think I remember making this for a reason. Really what I'm trying to find out, and you know what, we already have one. So if we look at this box here, you can go through here in your dynamic properties, which is under geometry. Let's close some of these down here. dynamic. We have smooth subdiv, and we also have this Q grid turned on. It's going to take my corners here and refine them. And then you have this bevel and chamfer. So chamfer is going to give you the rounded edges. You can actually do bevel and chamfer. Bevel is going to kind of harden those edges a little bit. You turn off chamfer, then you are going to get that hard fall off. If you crank up your Q grid and then drop your coverage, you can see that a little bit better maybe. But I'm going to go in here and turn on chamfer, turn off bevel. That'll round it out. Is that the look I want, or do I want to? I think that's fine. Now on these corners here, again, you can still add smooth subdiv to those, so that'll be the final result here. And then, you know what, I'm going to bury this in. So I'm going to alt tap this boolean over here. And again, if we turn off live boolean, you see that's the mesh we're working with. You can also turn on polyframe. Then you can go through here and you can actually push this in a little bit further. Of course, we still have move multiple turned on, so turn that off. And now we can push that in. And while we're doing that, live boolean on, you can see we're getting a deeper cut. Because again, these are live booleans. If we want to, we can scale this. Let's turn on LSIM. So we can do it on the local symmetry axis. We'll scale this in. Again, I'm just trying to get a little bit more relief embedded in here for maybe a slightly better read. That'll work. Now, when I go to render this, if I want that to be a separate material ID, I can do that with a polygroup. That'll be fine. Okay, so looking good. He's got his little house here. He's got his little hands. Let's do a quick double check. One way to do this, if I want to just quickly look at the polygon distribution, and I don't feel like alt tapping through all these with polyframe on, is I can go through here and I can do a quick merge visible, and then that'll throw it into its own polygroup here. Get some more water, geez. Let's turn off poly paint. And now really quickly I can see, okay, this is, and this is okay. Actually, booleaning this much geometry on this type of object is going to be problematic. Not the best. And honestly, I wonder if I should build that in. This guy's super heavy, so we'll see if we can't rectify that. So anyway, just wanted to get a quick look at all that. So go ahead and delete that. We'll head back in here. So let's see what's going on with this guy. Dynamics turned on. I don't know what I was thinking with this thing. Let's clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to go hold down and Control Shift. We're going to isolate these two polygroups here. Hit Control W. I wonder if I can hit Reconstruct. Oh yeah. Okay. I had applied that geometry, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Delete Higher, and then hit D for Dynamic, and there's my dynamic result, which is perfectly fine, minus that polarized cap. I'm not a huge fan of that. I wonder what if we could do this. Let's try this. I'm going to isolate this. Can I zero mesh visible? We'll say same. Yeah, that kind of worked. Let's say half. And let's say, let's see, geometry, smooth, modifiers on. Depth size down, half. You know what I might also be able to do that might work? Let's do this. Let's go out of edit mode. I'm just going to try something real quick. I'm going to go over here to our, I wonder, we might actually, this will be easy enough. So I'm going to go here with my poly, any poly mesh will do, down here, and make sure it's not a primitive. You want to hit make poly mesh 3D, and then we're going to go over here to Q cylinder with a resolution of like, I don't know, 4. I'm going to steal this. Let's go here to group by normals. I'm going to take this end off. We're going to say delete hidden. And we're going to say B, create insert mesh, new. That's part of the problem too. So always make sure you hit that quick save button when you're dealing with multiple Z tools, which is why I kept doing that, because sometimes when you hop into your own thing, it gets a little bit nasty. So we're going to go over here and we're going to say recovered Z project. There you go. So we get everything back. Again, actually, let me grab. I was wondering if we had, let's see, brush data, quick saves. Quick save. So we are, what day is this? 1/7. No. Okay, so we have the recovered Z project. If we did have to go back to our last quick save, it was in there. It's not a big deal, and we saved appropriately. But I say brush, create, insert mesh new. But Z project grabbed everything that we were working on. So we're gonna head back in here to the nose of our little guy here. We're gonna swap this out using Mesh Fusion. So I'm gonna take this nose here. We're gonna hold down Control Shift, hit Control W, make it its own polygroup. And then we can hit B, insert mesh here, and this has a hole in the back. So now we can go in here to subtool, go in here to geometry. Smooth modifier is on, so when I control drag again, it'll go ahead and resolve that geo for me. Boy, why is it? Thank you. I'm gonna go through here. We're gonna say insert single edge loop. We'll go ahead and get rid of that edge loop it made me, and we could even scale this down. We can actually hit, let's do hit W, and then just control tap that point, and then we can go ahead and push this in and down, and maybe even go in here and massage that end out just a little bit here. So dynamic turned on. Hold down. Another thing too is when you go to smooth this, there's that new smoothing algorithm. That's not new, but they actually have that busted out in. If I go in here to BS for our smooth brushes, we have the smooth alt. All that really is you can hold down Shift to smooth something, and it's like it gets rid of your volumes. If you hold down Shift to smooth something and let go of Shift, it'll maintain your volumes as you're smoothing. Of course, we're smoothing on a very low density object. So if you turn your Z intensity way down, in fact, let's go to the original here. Z intensity way down, hold down Shift to start smoothing and let go of Shift. It'll push that geometry over the pre-existing volume as opposed to just destroying your volumes. So that's for regular ZBrush smooth. Let go of Shift. If you want to change your smooth brush, you can just hold down Shift and go in here and change it to smooth alt, and now it's the opposite. So now smooth alt is the default, and then hold down Shift, let go of Shift to use the other volume destroying algorithm. But I like the regular smooth, and I know how to use alt, so. Okay, that was a little bit weird, but it worked. I love you guys too. ZBrush a good tool for retopo, or should I manually do it in other software? It's anything that'll get the job done is good. Also depends on what the final use of it is going to be. If it's just going to be it's like for a render, that's fine. If it's going to be, if you need very controlled points and need to plot where every single point goes, then yeah, you need to probably do it by hand. Or what I prefer to do is have a base mesh that I can use to snap to another model. So if it's like, oh, heads have to have this exact geometry for make it perform in a game and share blend shapes, pipeline considerations, and the geometry is really good and the UVs are perfect, there's no point in rebuilding the geometry over and over again. You just use the same head, snap it a few millimeters this way and that way to get the different head shapes. Depending on the game, that could be more or less usable. Some games, if it's a realistic game, that's probably fine. If it's a very stylized game, you might have to get a little bit fancy with how you go about that. So that may not be the best solution all the time, but generally speaking, yeah, it kind of depends on. Let me reconstruct back. Can I really not? Okay, we can fix this. Let's go ahead and take these. Let's do Shift D to turn off dynamic. I'm going to take these caps off here, hit delete hidden. But anyway, yeah, to your question, yeah, the remesher is great, except when it's not. And when it's not, then you can't use it. What is the use of Dynamesh in conjunction with subdivision at the same time? Does it even work? Yeah, it will. So like in this instance, I can go through here. I can say, okay, let's Dynamesh this. There's my Dynamesh, and I can start working on it. And then I can, well, that's a little bit heavy. Let's drop that resolution way down. So I can Dynamesh this, perfect. And then it's like, hey, I don't have enough resolution, so I can hit Control D. That'll give me more subdivisions. I go through here and start sculpting. And then if I Control Drag to re-Dynamesh, it's gonna go back because it just re-Dynameshes. So you're just doing what it's telling you to do. So yes, it'll work. Is it the best way to go about something, usually what I'll do is, okay, I've got my volume. This is the volume I don't want to work with, and now I want to make a nice model, right? This will be where I zero, and I think that's exactly how I ended up making this. Is I went through and I dynameshed like a sphere and then another sphere to get his knuckles, or maybe sculpted it out, and then I use ZeriMesh to get me my nicer geometry. And I'm going to continue to use ZeriMesh to half ZeriMesh, keep smooth groups down to 0. The reason I have smooth groups down to 0 is if I have that up, it's going to keep softening my model. In this case, it didn't do too bad of a job. But if you already had a clean line through here, you don't need to keep smoothing your polygroups. That's just if you have a really jaggedy, aliased polygroup line is where you'd want to use that. So I'm going to keep hitting half. So there we go. So now I can go through here. It's a much lighter weight model. We can go through here and close convex hull. And I'm putting a lot of work into like making things, you know, low res stuff and solutions and dynamic subdivisions. You don't have to do this. You can have a 100 million polygon model for these hands. I'm not going to stop you. I just, for reuse and stuff like that and posing, I like to take a little bit of extra time. And also if you wanted to do like a game res, this will get you on your way. Now, would I hand this off to animation? I mean, if this is, I could go through here. The other thing about ZeriMesh 2 is it doesn't necessarily optimize. It tries to give you nice even quads. But for some games, you may have to be here and you're like, oh, you know what, these are going to be straight and they're not going to animate except for in the elbow. So you can go through here and say insert single edge loop and get rid of these. Or you could even try going here to edge loop and you can give this a shot. Let's go ahead and isolate this. We'll say delete loops and we'll change that angle down. So we'll kind of keep some of them around. So that'll go ahead and delete those extraneous loops that we didn't need for our game res model, I suppose, quickly. So yeah, you can use ZeriMesh until you can't use ZeriMesh is probably my best rule of thumb there. So if I want to dynamically subdivide this, I'm going to do another crease PG, turn on dynamic crease level of 1. Let's say smooth subdiv of 3. There we go. So same result using 1,000 polygons instead of 30,000 or whatever. Yeah, exactly. John says, I can't even remember how I modeled things back when there was no Dynamesh or ZeriMesh. It feels like a whole different world. Yeah, depending on what you're making, boy, it's great for ideation and trying to getting your idea out quickly first. Is always much easier sometimes. Communicate in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. Like I said, I barely speak English. I'm lucky that I got that under my belt-ish. I'd love to speak all the other languages, though. It'd make travel a lot less nerve-wracking for myself. Z-Tree plugin, how can that be added to plugin with ZBrush? Ooh, boy, that I don't know. Last time I saw Z-Tree was on a forum somewhere, so it should have instructions on how to do it. I don't know. I don't have it installed because I don't make a whole lot of trees. Thank you. Glad the videos are working out, Geraldo. Cool. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and live boolean this out. So this live boolean over here is like a inset live boolean, and here's the thing too, is like, okay, this is a nice rounded shape. Do I really want to go in and figure out like, okay, I gotta cut this, and it's kind of, you know, this would be another option where I would use ZeriMesher to figure that out for me, or at the end of the day, just use live booleans and call it a day probably. So we got a bunch of start groups and stuff on here. So this is going to be. This could be problematic. We'll see how that turns out. Same thing for this arm. We just sliced this in and then put this arm in here. So we'll see how it turns out. This I'm actually going to just use rendering to fix this. Boy, when I made this, live boolean must have been on my mind. I don't normally do this much live booleans, but it's a bit of a 5. But we did, and I don't feel like fixing it, so we'll call this guy done. Go up here to quick save. We got our flowers already done. This guy's looking okay. Let's turn off the poly paints here. Yeah, these are fine. This is another instance of just using Dynamesh and getting my volumes figured out, and then going through and ZeriMeshing, capping off, and then going back to dynamic just to get a nice, easy model here. probably the same thing with this too. So dynamic, this is just a simple cylinder here, and this looks all pretty simple. Let's see, let's go ahead and crank up our smooth subdivs one more. Yeah, I think that guy will work. And then finally, Bowser Jr. Now he's going to be the one I'm going to be the most worried about, just to make sure that we have the ability to kind of pose him. So number one, I need to make sure, I don't mind having subdivision levels on here, but I do want to make sure that I have lower subdivisions on most of my things. So I'm going to go in here to merge, visible. We're going to go back to this merged here, and we're going to see if there's any problem areas or any areas that need lower subdivision history. It looks like just his shell is going to be problematic, and possibly his head. And one thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead on here to delete. Let's go back here. Let's do all low. Go to my lowest subdivision level for my body here, and that'll also show me like, okay, yeah, this is unnecessarily high. I can get the same result. One thing I can do, so I have my point in history here. We'll do zero measure half dead size down to 0. We'll keep doing this. And if as I'm doing this, I'm also possibly losing volume. So I can go back here, I can go back to this point in history, control tap it, or I can just control tap it. I don't need to actually see that point in history. And then I can go through here and do a project history. That's under your project, subtool project. And so now you can again get that volume back. You saw those verts kind of hop out to the original position. So now when I hit D, it'll be a little bit closer to where it was originally. And by D, I mean just turning on dynamic smooth subdiv of 3. So same result, 452 points instead of 10,000 points. Eyebrows aren't great, but I can live with them. Teeth are fine. Okay, so the shell is the problematic part. And again, it's not a huge deal. Like, he's 500,000 points total. Again, not a huge deal here. Actually, you can probably, that's interesting. Let's go ahead and say keep groups, smooth groups down, zero measure half. D for dynamic. Yeah, that'll work. So now this one, this will be interesting. So this might be a thing where zero measure isn't going to do a great job, and I might have to go through here and plot these points manually. I'm really hesitant to do that because it's going to be boring to watch, so I'm probably going to leave it. But yeah, you could do that. It wouldn't take that long. It would just be having to go through and do it. Another thing too, we have cloth sim now. So when I made this originally, we didn't have that. Let's play around with that a little bit. So I'm going to go over here. We're going to say all high. Boop, there we go. So we got this. And also, let's look at this geometry. I guess I can live with that. So we have this, and we have cloth simulation now. So I can go here, BCK, and we can go through here, and we can kind of move this around. Now, as we're getting these really small wrinkles, you can also use dynamic subdivision in conjunction with real subdivision. So we can turn this on. We can give this a little bit of a smooth preview. You're going to see, okay, the wrinkles are too small. There's two ways to combat that. You can go in here to dynamics, and you can say, crank your firmness up. So now you'll get bigger wrinkles. You can also drop your subdivision level down. So now we have, turn dynamic off. We have subdivision level 2. So now, and firmness way up. So we'll turn firmness back down. Because here's the thing, the cloth isn't very firm, but there's also not a whole lot of geometry here to play around with. So now as I have less geometry, it's going to give me bigger wrinkles. So you can go through here. Another thing too is if you want to just kind of make cloth along this volume here, you see as I use the cloth brush, it can just go anywhere. This is where we were doing earlier. If you saw the 2021.5, thick skin is another cool thing. Let's go back here. So all of the, like, I think all three of these projects right here have a little bit of thick skin. So that's where you go through here, and you can use that to kind of get you a clay effect. It basically just limits the effect of the brush. You know what? It was Pavlovich Workshop. That's me on YouTube. However, I also stream on Pixelogic's channel the first Tuesday of the month. So if I go there, and we go to Pixelogic's YouTube channel, let's see if I just have it easy. There we go. 2021.5 live stream. This is me, Paul, and Joseph kind of going through the new features. And in here somewhere, there was me kind of talking about going through the tube. Actually, you know what? I also did this in my last live stream. I want to say, so here's the other thing. Go to my YouTube channels. And down here, where the blue genie is, full episodes. And in our last episode here, we have this breakdown, and I should probably make chapters in here, right? But anyway, you can go down here, and you're going to see a, what's it called? Shrink wrapping cloth to wire structure. You can click that, and that goes through this process here is like, again, using thick skin to kind of limit your cloth. So we kind of shrink wrapped a cloth to a wire structure that we made using micropoly, and all that good stuff. So a little bit of thick skin talk on Tuesday as well. But anyway, thick skin, turn it on, adjust the thickness. And again, this is going to limit the range of your brush. So now it's like we're pulling that cloth brush along the surface of this, almost like we have cloth over a rigid body underneath. So we can go ahead and crank up that. So now it just, again, it just allows us to, it's kind of the same thing as going here, brush cloth nudge, only you can do it with any brush now. So go through here and wrinkle this up. You can also do brush BT, brush transpose cloth, and you can use transpose cloth here, W here, to go and wrinkle up and move things around and use collision volume, stuff like that. If we had him showing, we can go through here and we can say, give me a collision volume. It'll calculate everything that's not selected, and now it'll collide with the actual character here, which isn't anything that's going to be super useful in this particular case, but just so you know it's there. So go ahead and undo all that. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, wrinkles. Let me see if there's a Bowser Jr. reference. I mean, really, oh, and another thing too, it's cloth. So with that collision volume here, you can just literally have gravity turned on. I'll turn that strength down quite a bit, and then run the simulation. It'll actually just kind of simulate. It's another example too, where cranking your firmness up is probably going to help you a little bit. Maybe firmness 5 might be a bit much. But also this collision volume, it gets a little bit hairy in there. Let's go ahead and say mask. We don't need, this is already collided. I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to control tap to kind of smooth that mask out. And now we can run the simulation just where we need it. Let's see here, maybe. On masked is going to be the opposite. Yeah, that should work. Again, I have dynamic turned on, so sometimes I forget that I'm actually not simulating that many points. So there we go. So now we can kind of get some wrinkles in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. It's getting, again, it's this collision volume is kind of nutso. So what I can do, two things I can do. Number one, I can go through and I can hide these things. I'm going to alt tap this and find out where this is. I'm going to turn the eyeball off. So now it just won't collide with these things. That's one way to do it. And so now when I go through here and I simulate this and we rerun the collision volume, recalculate it, run the simulation, it just seems to be having a little bit of a problem there. This is also a thick mesh. I forgot to mention that. So what actually would help is if let's do this. Subdivision level, let's go back down to 1. Let's take this. We'll say delete higher, delete hidden. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to say dynamic, turn off smooth subdivision. I'm going to turn up thickness. So this is a dynamic thickness. I'm going to take my offset. So we like this outer border. I'm just going to offset this thickness. And so offset of -100. So this is dynamic thickness. So now I only have to simulate one side of the cloth. So this will make it a little bit less iffy. So if we turn on dynamic subdivision, we'll turn on smooth again. So now again, I can go through here and we can run the simulation. There we go. So now it's going to simulate much nicer because it's, I think also self-collision, if you have a double-sided cloth, it'll force it to collide with itself and maybe give you some not so great results. But again, not a whole lot of wrinkles here because there's not enough geometry. So this is where we need to go in here and actually divide to give us some geometry. Let's unmask so we don't, because you can actually do a local division. If I hit divide now, it's going to leave this alone and then subdivide locally this, which is actually okay if you want to just have this, not have a lot of information, and then just use your cloth sim BCK down here. You can, but in our case, we don't want to do this. So divide, divide, give us some subdivision history. And we can always go back too. So we'll turn on dynamic, turn down smooth. Our thickness is still on, which is fine. So now, again, we'll mask here and then control tap to blur that mask out. Or another thing you can do, you can back your object way off, and then when you go through here and mask, it'll automatically kind of feather for you. And then we'll run our simulation again. And on this one, firmness, gravity strength down here, and that might actually be too much. Let's say subdivision level 2. And we'll turn up smooth subdivision to 1 here. So that's actually getting us a little bit of his shell information. But that is good for, you know, if it is just kind of sticking out an air, you don't feel like going through here and being like, okay, let me use matchmaker or anything like that. This seems to be having floor collision on brush, firmness, strength, gravity on, recalculate the collision volume. That's an easy way. And again, kind of like we did with the other demo, I just showed you that shrink wrapping it using contract. Go through there and shrink wrap, so that'll at least get us down there. And then we'll go up subdivision level 3. God, let's crank that firmness way up. BCK, firmness 4, collision volume off. So again, we're messing around with cloth with a collision volume off. So now we can just kind of go through and move the cloth around. And then also, I think what was messing it up was that thick skin. Turn that off and we'll reset it. So again, we're just limiting the effect of this brush in particular. Another thing too, let's do this. Let's go into our pinch brush and we're gonna go down here to elasticity, turn up simulation duration. So now I can go through here and just simulate with any of my brushes, but the pinch brush in particular, and that'll give us the ability to kind of add wrinkles using any brush, but then the pinch brush kind of constrains that effect to just certain areas here. So go ahead and unmask here. And we'll say dynamic, smooth subdiv. I'm just gonna go quick preview. We haven't actually added thickness yet. Another thing we can do is we can go up here. We can also do an expand. Let's go ahead and try and crank that down a little bit. So while we're using this brush, the cloth will start to kind of, not inflate. Inflate's a little bit different. It's going to push those points away from each other. Same thing with expand, but expand's going to give you a little bit more cloth as you're working. I can also maybe do this. Control tap, invert that. We have our cloth transpose on still. Let's turn on local symmetry. And let's also turn off dynamic here. Expand in only the X direction. There we go. We were also expanding in the X, Y, and Z direction. You can also tell it which direction you want that cloth to expand in, and the X direction is left and right. So while you're using these brushes, again, just another layer of control you can have. But at the end of the day, let's go ahead and crank up my Z intensity a little bit. You can also just go through here literally and just sculpt. Let's go ahead and turn on dynamic here. Now, when we have our thickness, so we turn on dynamic here and turn off smooth subdivision, and we turn on thickness, you're going to see we have new geometry through here. I'm going to turn off post subdiv, so it's going to add thickness. Actually, yeah, post subdiv off. So when I go through here and I apply it, maybe post subdiv on. Oh, we actually have applied geometry. That's right. When I was doing my cloth sim, it already did that. Well, let's do this. Let's turn off dynamic. We want to keep that. We can add some segments in here. So if we have 3 subdivisions, we're going to say segments of 8, I think. So now we can reconstruct back to our original. Yeah, that'll work. A little bit weird, but you can do that. That's also in the ZBrush 2021 What's New. And let's also turn on everything else. So hold down Shift, turn on our eyeballs, and there's our bib. Now, is this a better bib than we had? Not really. Did we talk about cloth a little bit? Sure. So I'll call that a win in my book. But anyway, I'm gonna go through here really quickly. We'll just keep hitting Control D just so we can get enough resolution through here. And again, at least it's a little bit closer to his body now. We have plenty of subdivision history, so we can go through and we can pose this later on as needed. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, and the shell, what's going on in here? Oh, that's just a little bit of placeholder stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that out of our scene. The shell, I guess we're gonna leave alone. Let's see if we can clean it up just a little bit here. Let's go back to our pinch brush. We'll turn off simulation iterations here. I'll just kind of pinch these distances a little bit closer to each other and move this so the raggedy ends of this shell you don't get to see. Good enough. Okay, let's go back here. You think it's okay to learn sculpting in Blender and eventually migrate to ZBrush? Sure, you can do whatever you want. This is ZBrush. I'm making them for eventually what I'm going to do is put them all in one scene and pose them out, which I think we can do now. I think we got everything here that we need. So let's start migrating these pieces around. So let me see. I'm going to say append a cube here. Yeah, it's pretty close. So if I wanted to unify everything in my scene, there's actually go in here to Z plugin, and you can do Scale Master. There's a ZBrush Scale Unify, so they'll do it for all your subtools. So we can go through and we delete this. So if I do that, we can set. That'll go ahead and make sure it's going to go through and unify everything for ZBrush Scale. So now I can go through here and like if you ever see like your brush is getting capped out, there's ways you can fix it in your preferences draw. But this will make it more ZBrush friendly, and it'll reset your export settings to export it at whatever scale it needs to for whatever scale you're working at. So FYI, that's there if you need it. So this one's looking good. I'm going to call this one, well, since we've updated this, I'm going to say refine 03. And then I'm going to call this Mario scene. So this is going to have all of my characters in it that I'm going to go through and pose out. How I'm going to do that is one kind of quick way to grab everything, or most things hopefully, is to just go through here and like grab a bunch of your stuff with move multiple. So we can go through here and we can just grab a bunch of my objects here. You can hit Control F and it's going to say create a new folder, say yes, and we're going to call this Bowser Jr. Then we go ahead and drop in the rest of these things into this folder here. So now we have one folder with everything in it, like so. And why that's important is I'm going to be bringing in multiple things, and it's kind of nice to have organization. So we'll go back to the question mark box again, and we can do live boolean. It's turned. Oh, this is the one we've already boolean, so we're just going to go ahead and leave it as is. We'll do a quick check on it. Yeah, that's fine. I think that'll work. So we'll go ahead and say, this one's easier. This one, all we need to do, or one way we can do this is we only have 2 subtools in here. So I'm going to go back to my big working file here. We'll go ahead and collapse that. We're going to say append. You can do an insert or append. It's going to drop it. Append's going to drop it to the bottom, which is what I want to do. We'll go grab that question box here, and we'll go back in the question box, grab the box, and then we'll just say append again. There you go. So we've got this here, and they're both in here. So again, with 2 things, not a big deal. We can hit, oops, sorry, Control F, question box, and we'll drop this in here. we got these two now, and now we can hide this entire folder here. Another thing we can do is we go ahead and delete all these, so we don't need them anymore. This one's going to be a little bit heavier, so let's see. Sorry if I missed any questions. Extending your CJ May course level stuff. Thank you. Yeah, CJ May starting up again soon. End of this month, I think. Oh, I gotta get ready. What tips can you give the new ZBrush people? I'm about to complete in ZBrush. If you're brand new to ZBrush, one thing I would maybe go check out is I have a playlist for ZBrush for concept and ideation. Here's 57 videos on YouTube that are just like the basics of ZBrush, like opening it up to making your own custom menus and how brushes work and all that stuff. Same thing on my channel here. Under the playlists, I have another playlist in here. Here we go. So here's the full playlist here. Again, 57 videos, all the basics here. So check those out. I guess I can go ahead and kill that one. Here and here, you can find both of those. So that would be like, yeah, beginner, ZBrush beginner stuff. Cool. Oh yeah, and as far as advice, I agree with Dan. Watch videos, read documentation, pick something to make it, learn a lot from it, and make some more stuff. And then after you make 10,000 things, you'll probably be pretty good. Have I tried Blender? Yes, I use Blender all the time. Sounds like one of those people who get called in. Dynamic setting the flake expand contract. Does that impact any current brush you're using? Yeah, exactly, John. So basically, and it's actually useful. One of the things I did use that for, this biker guy when I was doing his jeans here, when you're going through here and you're using a brush, like you can use the nudge brush and it'll nudge the cloth. However, while you're doing that, if you want it to nudge and contract or nudge and inflate or nudge and expand, then yeah, having those settings turned on while you're using the brush will go ahead and allow that. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Depends on what you're making. Is the beard you should gain some weight? Probably gain some weight, but the beard I had to take off because when I'm using some of my masks, having a beard doesn't really work well with them, so. Softwares that you have free, or do you pay for them? I pay for them mostly, unless you're talking about Blender, in which case it's free. Cool. It's not necessarily about 2021.5. We're just kind of getting some files ready to go. Is there a way to align subtools on top, left, and bottom, and so like objects in Corel Draw can be? Yeah, there's a plugin you can use for that. I don't know that I have it installed on this version of ZBrush. Generally what I would do is if I wanted to align an object, it would be like go through here and align the object using insert mesh brushes. But of course, when you get into like, well, I want to take an object at a predetermined size and snap it over to here, I don't have a real good solution for that. Other than, I don't do that kind of stuff very much just because I just use insert mesh brushes and make stuff. But if you need snapping functionality, I don't know that I have a good answer for that one. Who's my favorite creature artist of all time? I can't pick one. So many good ones. VR sculpting apps, medium gravities. What are your thoughts? Do you see them becoming serious alternative to ZBrush in the future? No, I haven't tried them. I do have an HTC Vibe. For me, it would kind of be in the same realm of why I don't use a Cintiq. It's more about ergonomics than it is about the sculpting. If I'm going to be sculpting something for 13 hours a day, I don't want to be waving my arms around for 13 hours. I mean, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but realistically, like when I had a Cintiq and I had my arm up for 8 hours straight, it wasn't easy, and I would assume the same thing for VR. It seems a little bit clunky now from what I've seen, but I've seen some amazing results, and I'm sure the experience is like transcendent, so I'm positive I'm missing out. Do I really care that much? Not really, but I might change my tune on that. cool. South Korea. Once I get to be able to travel, I might head that direction. When am I doing my 2021.5 feature stream? Go back in time and you will see so much 2021.5 content, it'll blow your mind. On my YouTube channel, there's a ton of 21.5 new features. Let me see if I have one specifically. I honestly don't ever remember. I think I skipped that live stream just because like 2 days after it launched, I had an entire playlist of 2021.5, so I didn't see a whole lot of reason to do a live stream for it. But if you have any 2021.5 questions, just shout them out. Way to keep edges unchanged while subdividing a mesh in ZBrush. Yeah, you're talking about like when you smooth subdivide. There is a solution for that. I forget what it is. You can turn off smooth SMT, obviously, but that's not going to smooth your mesh. You can manually go through. What was it? You can use cage here, and then I'll keep your. I don't know. There is a solution for that. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Cool. I don't want to sound dry today. All right, so I think we've got everything we need. This is going to be the one with the most pieces, and when we made this originally, start groups was where it was at. So if I want to see how this is going to look, I can go through here and I can say boolean dynamic subdivision, make boolean mesh. This will go through and do my U mesh here. So let's see if there's any problems with that. So we have the body here, which is fine. I do kind of want this to be separate, this little piece right here to be separate, I think. Arms are separate, that's good, and the box is all one constructed piece. So I think it mostly worked other than the arms. So I'm gonna go ahead and say delete all. Go back to our working file, wherever that is. And I'm gonna go through here, and we're gonna make this its own start group. So we have this one that's punching in here, so we'll turn on polyframe so you can see what it's going. So this is punching in a hole, and then this is sticking it to the body. So if I make this a new start group, and then I make this a new start group, and this needs to be, no, this isn't gonna work. This start group needs to be moved up above this or way below it. Let's put it way below because that can come in at the very end. So now we have a body, subtractive. There we go. So we have a body here that's having this cut in and then having this cut in and then having this added. And then after all those operations, we're gonna have an arm pop in and then have a ring pop in. So now when I go through here and do our merge, dynamic subdivision, make boolean mesh. There we go. Yay, all separate pieces. I think this will work. So again, if I want to migrate all these, I can do the exact same method where it's like, okay, one by one. That's a little bit tedious. I'm going to say new folder. I'm going to say bill, and we'll take this in here. And I'm going to migrate this file over by going in here to Z plugin, subtool master. We're going to say copy folder. So this is the folder with all the stuff in it. We're going to say copy folder, and then we're going to go back to our working file here. So we're Bouncer Junior question box, and we'll say paste folder. There we go. Now if I want to start moving some of this stuff around, so we got our bullet bill here, we'll just say Kim, and we'll say transpose set. That'll put us into move multiple mode. I'll go ahead and reset this here. So now we can kind of move these things around a bit so we can maybe see them a little bit easier. We can also use that to scale, because some of these are a little bit out of scale, it looks like. And that's the gist of it. So we're just going to do that a bunch of times. This recover tool we don't need. Kind of clean this out. We can delete all these. It's our working file. We don't need all this. This is, again, just our working file. We did change around some stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as our bullet file. And we'll go ahead and delete all these. This one has a lot going on, but doesn't have any live booleans, so that's okay. Again, we'll hit W, we'll say move multiple. I'm going to grab most of the stuff in here, hit Control F for a folder, think this ghost has a specific name, but I don't remember what it is. And we'll go ahead and drop this in there. We'll go ahead and say copy folder, go back, let's go ahead and move multiple here, and we'll say paste folder. There we go. And we'll move this a little bit here, so we'll say transpose set. Yoink. Alrighty. What else we got? Go ahead and say delete all. Sorry, it's gonna get boring. Talk amongst yourselves. Copy folder, back, paste folder, delete all. And one more, we got this little guy. He's poly painted, and I think that'll work, but we can also do the texturing later, which is I think what I'm gonna do. So we'll go ahead and say, you're okay. Let's go ahead and do our, and the only reason I'm doing the move multiple is just so I can quickly get a bunch of things into a folder. Like so. And then copy folder, go back, and finally paste our folder. So now we have our whole working file. We can go ahead and delete all this stuff. And this is to keep my scene lighter. If you ever get a quick save, it's going to save project, and it's going to save everything in here. So if you have a ton of projects sitting over here, it's going to take longer as opposed to just cleaning those out. So go ahead and save as, and this again will be our scene file here. What's the most challenging thing about doing the artwork? Usually, I mean, this artwork in particular is just technical execution. But generally speaking, the most challenging thing about making art is deciding what to make. It's not so much like how you go about creating it, it's deciding what to create. It's far and away the more difficult task. Cool. Happy New Year. Spain, that's another place I need to go. Gotta do some serious traveling. What I need to do is win the lottery. And then second thing to do is do some serious traveling post-COVID, if that ever happens. Is this made with ZModeler? Yeah, mostly. Cool. Started Blender going pretty well. Student learning through a lot of videos on YouTube. Yeah, that'll do it. Introduction to all the tools and properties. Search and couldn't find any videos. Are you talking about like ZBrush or Blender? I think there's got to be a bunch for both. Any suggestions on learning the properties and tools? Blender, right off the top of my head, I don't know. If you're talking about like every property, boy, that'd be a tall order. Ace. Better late than never. So let's go ahead and let's start making our scene here. So let's go back up here and, oh goodness. So let's start scaling some of these things around. So this bomb here, let's go ahead and collapse all these folders so we can see a little bit easier here. So the bomb, we're gonna go back in here to transpose, oh, not add. So here's the thing about transpose multiple. You can just hold down Control Shift and just drag over. You can use this, you can use lasso, and it'll let you select whatever, and then you can transpose just those objects. You can go through here and you can transpose add, sub with these. You can also hold down Control Shift and drag, and that'll unmask, or not unmask, but unselect, or you can Control drag again. That'll hash these, and then you can go through here and Control Shift tap individual components to move them around. You can use that, move multiple, by going through here and starts, you know, playing around with some of this. So let's go ahead, let's go back into move multiple, because I'm just going to drag this guy, and we'll start deciding like what we want our scene to be. So we have a box here, and this guy's going to go, you know, he's going to be fired out, and he generally goes in a straight line, right? So I can use that as the start of my scene. One thing we don't really have is a ground plane, or I mean, there's a couple different ways we can do a ground plane. We could do just a plane with like bricks. We can also do maybe like we did, you know what? If we go back here, if you want to learn more about this kind of look dev that we may get to do. It's 7:30 though. This look dev that we're probably maybe we get to is all right here. This is going to be 28 videos on just very quick look dev, going straight from ZBrush to Paint, Substance Painter, straight to ZBrush to Substance Painter, and Marmoset Toolbag 4, where you can actually do your texturing in Marmoset. You can check this out. It's super cool and it's super easy and super fun. Like I said, I dilly-dally too long today, so I may not be able to get to a lot of it, but all that information is right there. But also, let's see. So we've got the bullet, we've got the box here, and it's going to be fired right out. And we need a ground plane. So one of the things I was going to do is like a hill that was in that other scene here. So we're going to do just a quick, what I'm going to do, append a Z-sphere. I'm going to take the Z-sphere and give these guys a little bit of stuff to play with. Of course, we still have transpose cloth on, so we're able to go through here and treat this as a cloth object. But we want to do BTR here, so we can just use a regular scale here. We're going to go through here. We're going to put a hill on here, like so. And I'm just going to slice the bottom of this here. Isolate this. Delete hidden, zero mesh half. We'll go ahead and turn X symmetry on. Depth size down to 0. And we'll just get this just a very lo-fi hill. You can also go through here. You can do an extrude edge loop. We can tap Alt to kind of go around here, and we can kind of just start dragging these off. You can also just keep dragging this stuff out here. And I guess that'll kind of work for our hill here. So we'll go ahead and we can turn on dynamic thickness if we want. Or you can just go through here literally and just say QMesh polygroup all. Just pull this in, display properties flip, and then W. I'm going to control tap this bottom part here, and we'll go ahead and say reset this down, and we'll Z scale this bottom here. Goodness gracious. So I can just kind of flatten that out. This, actually, we don't even need to do that. We could have just gone through here and said delete hidden, and then just done a close convex hole and pop that right in there. So anyway, this will kind of ground our scene a little bit as we're doing this. So now this guy here, again, we can go in here to move multiple. We don't even need to go to the transpose setup. We don't want to. We know what we want to move around. So you can just say, you know, grab all of this, and he's going to be floating over here. Let's turn off X symmetry. And I think he might be a bigger guy, right? He's King Ghost. So he might be out here somewhere. We'll go ahead and turn off perspective too, so we can kind of get a better idea of where these things are going to be in space. Here, and then this guy can just be watching it all happen. Now, selecting him out of this mess is going to be a little bit tougher. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to go over here to the bottom and say transpose sets. And now it's just on him. And again, turn off X symmetry, and he's going to be kind of watching everything happen from his little vantage point here. Now I can go through and pose his legs easy enough, because right now he's a little unbalanced here, but we can kind of get him settled in-ish, and then I'll go through and move his legs as needed. Yeah, but he'll be watching this whole thing just transpire down here in the corner. We can also maybe do some editing. I don't know that this flower is going to add a whole lot to our scene. Maybe just a little bit of flavor. And again, depending on where the action is happening, we can use this to go through here. Let's turn off X symmetry to kind of, you know, focus everybody's attention. If you have vectors drawn from everybody's eyeballs, boy, is everybody going to be inspired to look right here. So this is just an easy way to do that. You can kind of have them directing the viewer's eye by having their eyeballs all on it. What else we got? And then we got Bowser Jr. So we'll go ahead and, you know what, let's do this. Let's say move multiple here. Grab him. And again, we'll turn off make sure X symmetry is turned off. So when we start going through here and say here, and that's why I had the Dr. Strangelove hold up. We can do something like this, so he can be kind of doing his thing, and again, posing out we'll do in a second. Okay, so I think we're in good shape here. Actually, scale him up just a bit. Seem to be getting a little bit dwarfed in all the action. And then the ghost we're probably going to move, so he's kind of blocked here. We can always move our screen here. I think I like this side a little bit better. And you know what? I'm going to move the bomb guy up a little bit, I think. So here, so again, move multiple. Let's go ahead and grab all these. I'm going to lower these down just a little bit. Get everybody a little bit more contained. And then, like I said before, I'll grab all these pieces here. And he doesn't have a whole lot of legs to deal with, or to be able to get him to get on that hill nicely. So we'll see how that goes. And then the ghost guy will maybe drop back here. There's another thing too that I'm going to create really quickly, and that's going to be the let's turn off my frame here. Sorry, that's going to be the gas trail, the little cloud trail. So we'll go ahead and put that in here. So here. So let's do that really quickly. Let's turn off perspective, because perspective's kind of a pain to work in for some of the stuff. So what I want to do, I can actually maybe even do a nanomesh or an IMM brush that's going to like populate a bunch of spheres in a line, basically is what I'm looking to do. But I want them to also maybe shrink or grow. Let's see, bullet bill. Let's see if there's an example so I can show you, or at least have an example for my eyeballs, so I know what I'm kind of going for here. Kind of like this. So it's going to start big, obviously, the big smoke, and then it's going to kind of peter out a little bit. Of course, probably overthinking it. There's going to be a procedural way to do anything, but at the end of the day, it also might be a good idea just to go through here and just do spheres. So I'll go through here. I'm going to say quick split mask points, and we're going to start with our, let's get out of move multiple. We're going to go through here and we're going to scale this. Again, we're going to scale kind of the big components of this, and then if we want to add smaller blobs, we can go through here, we can hit W, and we can control drag off, and this can be the start of our next trail here. And we can just continue to kind of, I'm going to use this as like how we're going to start this trail. Of course, you're going to want to go through and make this look a little bit more cloud-like. And again, there's maybe some nanomesh ways you can go through here and scatter nanomeshes around here. But I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. It's easy enough just to go through here and just kind of add something. I'm going to create a little bit of more depth on this brush. So we're going to go down here to our depth. And as I'm dragging this out, see how it's embedded at 0? We'll go ahead and embed it halfway. So now when I drag this out, it'll go ahead and be a little bit more what I'm looking for. So you can use scale, you can go through here and just kind of blob this stuff around, and that'll kind of give you that broken up shape here. So we'll just keep doing that. And so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. I think what I'm going to do is just go through here and just start populating a bunch of cloud balls, and then I'll go through manually and break these up as needed. Now, these are probably all going to be Some of the same polygroups here. You see these are all the same. So I'm going to go through here and do a quick polygroups auto groups. That's one way to separate these. So you can go down here with your brush auto masking, turn on mask by polygroups, and then you can go through here individually. But since these are all separate meshes, you can also, in lieu of that, turn on topological. And then now when you go through here, you can very quickly just kind of go through and kind of populate these around. Now, I could just leave them all as spheres. There's nothing wrong with that, I suppose. But you could also, this is another example, you could boolean or dynamesh and then z-remesh the result, depending on, you know, what you're looking for. But we'll see how it works. Again, I'm not overly concerned about making these pristine or anything. If you're doing it for 3D printing or something, that might dictate a little bit more. These are all kind of samey, so I'm gonna actually turn off topological. Now I can go through here and I can like maybe mask out or isolate one, go through here. And you can also, here's another thing too, also remember if you did want to say like dynamesh these results, you can go through here. There's another brush in here. That's the comma key, brush, miscellaneous, LM, misc. There's a brush spherical, which is kind of fun for this type of work. You can go through here and literally just start, let's crank up that's the intensity here and turn off our lazy radius. You can go through here and just kind of start populating, you know, kind of round volumes here pretty easily. So, oh, another thing you could use too is a project primitive. That might have been actually a better, I mean, they're all fine. Let's go through and smooth these out. They're all fine. But if you did want to use project primitive, one example of that would be, go ahead and split this off. I'm gonna hit W, go to mesh center here. Project primitive, and then you can just literally pull these primitive shapes off of this object. So you have like, here's a nice, here's a nice sphere. A lot of cool stuff you can do with that. This is an older one, I think. Go back here. Kill it. YouTube playlist here, sorry. Actually, let's do this. Earthworm Jim, look for him. ZBrush 2018, what's new? This is a bunch of project primitive stuff you can see in here. In fact, this whole Earthworm Jim, oh, you know what? I think speed sculpts. So if you watch him being made, not that I would necessarily do this, but I actually did a lot of project primitive on his muscles here, as well as the gun that he's holding was all made, I think, with project primitives. Again, you could use the modeler, you could use booleans and whatever you want to use, but it's just another option for you there. Let's go ahead and stop that video, make it cut up here. Good. Cool. How are you finding using the 3D connection space method with ZBrush? I use it just, not even just for ZBrush, I use it as a universal navigation tool for all the programs that I forget how to navigate in, like Fusion 360. I don't use that much. I would love to have it for Unreal, because again, I don't go into, there's some programs I go into a lot, and then there's some programs I don't go into very much. So the programs I don't go to very much, it's a lot easier just to say, oh, the Space Mouse always works like it's supposed, or how you think it should. So let's see if I can get this. There we go. Solo mode here. But as far as ZBrush, I haven't really set it up to be like a replacement for my keyboard or anything. So while I'm sculpting and stuff, it's fine. It's just I need constant access to my myriad of hotkeys. So I don't tend to use it as much as ZBrush necessarily, but for everything else I do, for sure. Like when I head into Keyshot, or another one too, it'd be great if, I think Marvel's, does it work in Marvel's Designer, or Substance? It might be kind of nice too, but I don't think it works in Substance. So anyway, here's our cloud things. Let's go ahead and isolate this and shrink this down here. And we're just using a spherical brush here, and we might, let's go ahead and dynamesh that result. There we go. So here, we'll go ahead and shrink this down, maybe scale it just a bit. And you know what? Let's go ahead and merge these. So we got the big cloud and a little cloud. Let's hit Control E, which is my hotkey for merge. And that'll be good enough, I think. John says, I think the hardest part is starting from nothing. Yeah. That's it. You look fatter than before. Oh, thanks. I've been trying to put on some weight. Off question, did they ever fix the BPR refraction settings? I never had that work since 4R2. Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Edge extrusion is, so this one here, if you want to go deeper dive into, let's just grab a cylinder here, edit, make polymesh 3D, group by normals. I'm going to take this here, these two polygroups here, we'll say delete hidden. So go through here and extrude edge loop. So while you're doing this, you're just pulling out. If you tap spacebar, let me see, extrude edge loop, free angle. Oh, it's shift. So you're going to see when I hold down shift, it's going to, up here in the upper left-hand corner, it says switch to perpendicular angle, switch to planar angle. So it's going to stay on that same plane, perpendicular, free. So here's free angle. So just hold down, tap shift, and you can do that. Of course, you can also go in here and say extrude edge loop and just choose it. So if you want to do perpendicular, just make sure it's chosen, and there will be perpendicular, 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 or you can tap shift to switch between those. That's, I want to say, ZBrush 2020. What's new? ZBrush 2021. What's new, actually? I think that was when Edge Extrude. God, it's been a while. Edge Extrude stuff should be in here. There's a bunch of videos on that and how to use those and snap them to your surface and all that stuff. Yeah, and I can link to that too. All the, you know, it might be 2021, what's new here. And then if I hear you do Control F and do like edge and just kind of go through here, you're gonna see, oh, edge extrude options, edge extrude retopology, videos 34 and 35 will be the most information on that, at least walking through all those different options. Cool. What do you think of the drawbacks of using blenders compared to Maya or Max? Oh, those big questions. Hard to say. Yeah, if it's just pure modeling, like a lot of times it boils down to what's your favorite program to extrude a face in? They're all amazing. Is there a big demand on good digitalizations? I mean, like high resolution height map scans the resolution. For like terrain, sure, yeah, I think so. Not for me, like for environment artists though, for sure. See Unreal is part of your Thursday stream workflow, such an amazing program. Yes, that's the problem with Unreal, is it's intense and amazing, and I'm neither intense nor amazing in Unreal. So eventually, yeah, if I could do more stuff in Unreal, my Unreal stuff that I do is more just integration. It's not like, oh, watch me do all this cool stuff in Unreal. It's more like, watch me bring this thing into Unreal and assign some things to it. It's not like, it wouldn't be very amazing to watch at this point, but someday maybe. What's going on your subtools? You can have folders of subtools now, like different parts. Yeah, I think that was a 2018. What's new? Let's see. Oh, another thing too, if you're brand new to ZBrush, you want to get caught up in like basic functionality, going back to that one playlist here, ZBrush 20, ZBrush for concept and ideation. What's new? Like this is the updated intro to ZBrush stuff right there. The folder stuff is in that playlist too. When I start to do character sculpts, can I start with a base mesh? When I start to learn to do character sculpts, I start with a base mesh, start with a sphere. Probably start with a sphere, just because, you know, if you're learning to do characters, you want to learn to do anatomy, and starting with a base mesh solves a lot of the proportion and volume problems that you should probably be solving, just to kind of learn. But in production, there's no reason to start from a sphere, unless you like doing stand-up plate a lot. I mean, you'll get good at it. There's no, again, these are all generalities. My advice might be stupid to somebody else. So like if you love starting with a sphere for every base body you do and then retopologizing it by hand every single time, then by all means do that. There are awesome people that do that. Seems like a lot of work for me. just getting the moment. I just want to say thank you for the. Oh, no problem. Yeah, don't worry about. You know, is the videos I put up, if they're helpful, your thanks is more than enough. Retopo Flow in Blender. Yes. This is a 3D Studio Max tutorial. Sure. In that you could probably do a lot of this in 3D Studio Max as well. Cool. Yeah. So you can do folders organized here. So that'll work. And then again, one thing we did is, this is the one thing too, is like if I was doing a bunch of insert stuff, I can have ZRemesher with polygroups, keep polygroups on it. It would give me very, very nice geometry, even be making me be able to like crease in between these individual blobs. In this case, it's not going to, but one thing I do want to do, again, we have this point in history we can save. We can actually control tap that point. So we can go in here, ZRemesher, we'll say target polygon count of 5, and then just ZRemesh this. We don't need X symmetry on for this, obviously. And there we go. So now we have our clouds. It's a little bit lower, but we can still go back and project history if we're losing volume. So if I go in here like half ZRemesh, then we can even drop our depth size down. There we go. And then again, we can just project history back. Now again, we're losing a little bit of definition here. So when I go in here and I hit like D for dynamic, it doesn't, you know, I have to go back in here and sculpt that a little bit. So I'm going to control tab to get rid of that point in our history. I'm going to hit control D instead. So again, the reason I want to do this is when I go through here and start posing and stuff, I love having subdivision history. It just makes things a lot easier and more performant, as opposed to having a bunch of 10 million polygon meshes. So if there's at any point where I can add like, okay, I've got my volumes that I like, and now I just need to go in and refine them, that's when I'll do a ZRemesh and then continue to refine. Again, just to keep my file sizes down, just to make it a little bit easier to go through and pose when I want. We're using the miscellaneous spherical brush for our cloud here, which seems to be working okay. Let's go into solo mode here so I can focus more on just this. And again, just control D to subdivide, get more resolution. And this might be an instance too where normally I would say like, oh, you want to start with a lower subdivision and work your forms and volumes. In this case, it's probably better. This and clothing sometimes probably better just to go through here, subdivide it up to the subdivisions you want, so you don't have to go through and like rework the same cloud blob 7 times as you're subdividing. That seems silly. So stylized stuff can sometimes get into the realm of, you know what, subdivide up to where what you need. Let's also turn on backface masking. That's under auto masking backface. You can go through here and you can kind of turn on backface masking. So that way it's not going to pull through the object as much. All right, we got our clouds. Go out of solo mode here. And we got our dirt. Not a whole lot going on this dirt, so let's go ahead and fix that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and say, just run a crease under your crease menu, and then crease level of like say 1. So we still do a 4. And this will be our little hill here. So one thing I do want to add to this hill is maybe some grass. So let's grab just this top polygroup here. And I'm going to do Control-Shift-S to shrink, and then Control-Tap to mask just this ring here. We'll do Shift-D to turn that off. And so now with that mask, I can go down here to Fiber Mesh. I'm going to go into Lightbox, and we're just going to grab, there's some decent grass in here. Let's grab this grass. And I'm going to modify this a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is change that base and tip just to white. I don't need green grass necessarily right now. We'll turn off polyframe. And I'm also want to, this is very, a little bit more hyper-real grass than I need. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to change, usually like cranking up the coverage and then changing the max fibers way down. And also that length, I don't think I need them that long. And let's go ahead and crank up that length variant so we can have long and short. Also seems to be a lot of twist. If I go in here to BPR render, this will show you really what that grass is going after. It's very twisted. I'm going to go through here and say twist of maybe 50. And if I want to see the actual profiles of this grass, you're going to see it kind of does profile the grass a little bit. Let's go down here to BPR settings. Let's turn off tip and ISO to 0. So we'll get rid of that smooth effect. So there we go. You're seeing it smoothed out, kind of twisting, but there's only 2 sides. If you crank this up to 4 sides, when you hit BPR, that'll go ahead and render it out as like a solid piece. However, as soon as you go out of BPR, it goes back to just that one single plane. If you want to actually see those, let's go in here to profile and set this up to 4. It's going to yell at you and say like, hey, this is, depending on if you have 10 million fibers, it might kind of hit your performance kind of heavy. But in this case, we're not too bad. And then segments, you can say if one segment is just going to be like a stick out of the, or let's say 2 segments maybe. It's like just a stick out of the ground. There we go, like this. The more you add, the more, actually that twist is just too much twist. Skip, there we go. There we go. So this is a little bit of a limp grass. Let's go ahead and take that gravity profile down a little bit. There we go. So we've got some grass kind of around here. Now it's going all over where it is on the, where it's masked. I can change this. Let's also crank down the max fibers, or you can crank them up a little bit if you really want to make this very lush. But you know what? I don't mind seeing a little bit of dirt in between here. So we'll go ahead and crank down those max fibers a bit. And then we can also change the mask at any point if we'd like as well. Do I want to do that? Because if you go through here, we can turn off preview. We can hold down control. Let's go back to mask pin, hold down control alt, and kind of get rid of some of this. And then turn preview back on, you're going to see it's going to kind of back that off. And where the mask is kind of like 50%, it'll make that smaller as well. We can change that size later on. But I think that'll work. If you don't want to see the mask, just go down here to masking and turn off view mask, and you can kind of get a better idea of what it's going to look like. Now we can't groom this just yet, but we can when we go through and make this real. So let's do that. I think we're close enough. So we're going to go over, actually, let's turn on perspective. He still seems very small. Maybe, you know what? These guys might be too big. But we can fudge it. I think we can fudge it a little bit. Yeah, we're going to fudge it. So we'll go back here. We're going to say accept, and that's going to be our, oh, damn. So let's say our fibers here. Let's delete those fibers. I said always yes, didn't I? Shoot. Shoot, let's do this. Let's do a quick save. Because I wanted to actually see my profiles on my fiber mesh. And I hit always yes, which automatically makes it like, hey, we're going to make the super performance. We're only going to show you like little sticks, and you only see the real fibers when you go to BPR render. Now I could have done convert BPR to geo, but let's not do that. Quick saves here. So back where we started here, and we're going to go in here to our fiber mesh preview. Oops. Okay. Then we're going to hit accept. We're going to say, would you like to activate fast preview mode? No. There we go. So now we have our fiber sitting here, and this is where you can go in here to like BG, groom hair, toss, and this you can go through here and you can like comb your fibers if you want to. There we go. So now the hill, we can go back here, unmask, hit D for dynamic. Actually, no, let's do crease level of 1. I accidentally did that. There we go. So now, again, if you have BPR, the fibers are still going to render out with those BPR fiber settings that we had, which is fine. And like I said before, we're going to fudge this just for the sake of composition here. So I'm going to say W, Control Shift, grab all, oops, move multiple, grab all these, not that. Let's go in here and we'll set this to the middle here, and we're going to scale that up. Now, is he going to be able to fit back in that hole? No. Is that okay with me? Absolutely. Let's go ahead and grab this here. Let's go to unmesh mesh center. Let's grab those legs and this little back piece here. Oops. And then we'll get rid of all these, and now we can. And also, luckily, we don't really have to fix his legs too much because his legs will be hidden by grass. So I think that'll work. Let's go ahead and say save as. We're running up to the end of this thing, Mario scene here, but next we'll be going into transpose master, posing him out. I think everybody else is pretty much posed, and then going in and doing a final render on this guy. Let me catch up on the questions here before I head out. Cool, no problem. Glad the videos are helping. Cool. Process for choosing small project to work on for your ZBrush streams. That's, you know what, speaking of what's difficult, thinking of things to do, and, is it technical application or just thinking of what to do, far and away from my live streams is figuring out like what's something I want to do this morning or can do in a limited amount of time. So for me, it's usually showing up here, running upstairs at 5:45 in the morning and going, is there something I can grab or something I've been thinking about to do? But that's another very hard thing for me anyways. Did you at least try the space mouse navigate while sculpting instead of the alt key navigation, as that looks to me the most useful thing to me? I can't use the right click navigation, unfortunately. Yeah, and it works fine. My problem is sculpting. I can sculpt and then it's like, oh, I want to switch to the clay brush. Okay, I haven't set up hotkeys on that yet, so now I got to switch back to my keyboard and then go back to navigating. So it's jumpy for me. With so many subscribers, why no tick mark? Let's Google tick mark. This is something, I don't really care that much. So I need these. And to rotate as well. Click an empty space to do so. Oh yeah, yeah. Right click navigation for that is better for some. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would just be something I would have to practice and set up my hotkeys, which I haven't done. Cool. This video's already on YouTube right now as we speak, so it'll be there. That is a, let me see if I got this. Let me see, unlock all these here. So if I click on my face and we go to filters, I was doing some really, my lighting has changed. So I was doing some really weird stuff with like my chroma key, contrast, and opacity. So I probably need to dial in some of these settings a little bit better. Cool, yes. Happy New Year to everybody. Have a good 2021. Cool, poly painted just by color. Yeah, that's another good one too. I usually demo that with my reptile head because you can grab like ranges of color. It's interesting. Oh yeah, I don't think I have 100,000 subs, so that might be why. Cool. Alrighty. Excellent. Well, I'll call it a day. Right at 8 o'clock. Again, like I said before, we got our scene set up. We'll do a little Dr. Strangelove pose on this guy. Maybe I'll do that today. And then we'll finish out that render and we'll be able to post that. Cool. Thanks, everybody. And see y'all.